can't find it. Ooh. And action! Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. This is a knitting podcast. I try and get a podcast out every week or so. I know I've let you down the last month or so. I haven't been so regular about it. But I finally do have a lot to show you, so I kind of held off until I had more of a critical mass. So I think we should just jump right in and get started. The elephant in the room. My liseuse, my bed jacket, otherwise known as the RIMSKA jacket. I've been working on it for quite a while. I had to rip out both of the fronts because I had made them too wide. And actually, let me show you. Because I did that, I was able to recoup all of this yarn. Plus, I have another whole ball that I haven't gone into. Here's the ball band. It's a German yarn, 70% Super Kid mohair, 25% nylon. It's called Soft Kid, and it's by GGH. They say that it gets 18 stitches and 25 rows to 4 inches or 10 centimeters square. I don't know what my gauge was because of the lace pattern, but they also recommend size 4 or 5 needle. I think that I used a size 5. I ought to know that. I'll check on that and I'll put it on the screen. It's a fairly thin yarn, but all bets are off when you're knitting lace. It's a whole other realm. The pattern actually called for a knitted neckband with a different lace pattern, and I opted not to do that. When I started to knit it, I found that it was a little bit wide because I wasn't getting the same gauge as the pattern was getting. So my band turned out even wider than the wide band that they had recommended. So I went ahead and visited a trim shop in the Garment Center of New York to get this ribbon. It's more than an inch wide. I just kind of like guesstimated how much I would need by wrapping a piece around my neck. It's over 2 yards of ribbon. In silk, this ribbon would have cost me $28, but as it turned out, this is not silk. It was much less expensive, so it was a few bucks, no big deal. And let me bring this up close to show you. I very carefully stitched just around the edge. You probably can't even see it. It's almost imperceptible. The sleeves are 3/4 length. I changed the pattern a little bit because I made the back a tad longer than the front, and I left a split hem. I thought it was a little more flattering to do that, and I just thought it would be more comfortable to wear. I don't imagine that I will ever wear this out publicly. I think it's more of a bedroom piece, very lingerie, as is the Spencer that I'm wearing. So let me do my genie thing and I'll be right back wearing it. So here you have it. I hope this gives you a good view. Let me turn around for you. The pattern called for the lace to just go to the edge and be bound off, but I could see that it was curling a little when I did that on the sleeve. So for the body, I did just a couple of rows of ribbing. It's not so noticeable. I don't think it detracts from the pattern at all, but I hope that it will help it to not curl up. After doing this lace motif, it's a 10-row repeat. After doing it a zillion times, I had it memorized. When I had to redo the fronts from about here on down, I re-knit that much and that much, which I think was worth it because it would have been doubled back like this, and it wouldn't have affected how it looks since there are no buttonholes or anything interfering with it. But I just thought to have all of that turned under was a waste of yarn, and I'm not in any hurry to finish any projects. As you know, I have limited space, so the less I produce, the kinder it is to my closet. So there was no rush. I thought, oh, let me rip it back. By the time I got finished with the fronts, and I still had a little bit to do on one sleeve, and I ripped out some of the back to make the back shorter to correspond to the new fronts, I was very, very ready to be done with this. It was just too much of a good thing. So I'm pleased with the results. I'd love to know what you think. It's a little hot to be sitting here wearing this. Let's see what the temperature is. It's almost 80 degrees outside, so let me get out of this. But wait, there's more, because I have also finished another lace project, a significantly smaller project, but I am done with my vintage gloves. To the point of putting on the button and the little loop. These buttons are not the buttons that I showed you an episode or two back. I was going through my sewing box and I came across these. I had ordered spherical buttons from a button company online for a white sweater that I knit a number of years ago, and they sent me these, which are only a half of a sphere. It's flat on the bottom. It's not a whole, excuse me, it's not a complete ball. So I asked them to please, make the adjustment, and I really wanted the totally round ones. So they let me keep these, which was very nice. But now I have a bunch of these that I didn't need. Anyway, I will put one on for you to see. This yarn is Color Mart. It's a lace weight yarn. I think it's 3/28 NM. If you're into their industrial nomenclature, you'll know that that's very fine. I have shown it before. I don't have the cone right by me, but it's the same weight yarn that I'm using for that chartreuse scarf. They fit just great, and because these are a very fine wool, there's plenty of stretch to them. I think the pattern called for a cotton, but I have a lot of this left over from my Jeannie in 9 different colors. So little by little, I've been trying to use up each color. I'm doing that chartreuse, the lime green scarf, and I made this from the same yarn. This was held double. This is only 1 ply. And I'm going to be using it in some other things as little decoration. So that is finished object number 2, a pair of lace gloves. I will be coming out with a separate video on A to Z on these gloves, everything about them, and I'll leave a link here when I get it. I have fibers flowing. This thing sheds like crazy, at least for now. I haven't washed the whole thing. I just sort of did a very light blocking. But sometimes I find the fibers just floating around in the air. Okay, so that's, count them, 2 FOs. There's also a whip that you haven't seen for a while, so let me bring that on and show you. I've been working on this Tyrolean sweater cardigan for a while. I haven't shown it to you in a bit because I really hadn't made much progress on it, being so consumed with this and the gloves. Here's one of the fronts. Both of the fronts are complete, as are both of the sleeves. And I've started to assemble the pieces. This is knit flat. I'm trying to figure out a good way to show it. So I've basted together one sleeve. Here's the sleeve. And one front. So here are the 2 fronts, and there will be a button band here. I'm on the hunt for some crazy buttons that will bring out these colors. And here's one sleeve attached. But I've also made quite a lot of progress on the back. Now, the back doesn't look like anything yet. I hope that in a future episode I'll be able to say, okay, this is what it finally looks like. This is a traditional Ukrainian motif that's part of my ancestral heritage, so I thought I would try and include that. This is going to be a flower and leaves. I just sort of roughed in like a painter might sort of block out sections of color and then come back in later and refine it. I will be going over sections of this with duplicate stitch. The flower is going to have petals, and I'm going to be putting in more color. So hopefully it'll be more recognizable as a flower, and it will have many more colors in it. And then there's something more that will be coming above this. What I can show you is there's a little seed stitch on the top, and I am at the point on the back now where I'm just at the beginning. I've done a couple of rows of the seed stitch, so I have a little bit more to do, but I think it won't be too long until this is yet another FO, which is a very good thing because I have yarn on the way from the UK. Actually, it has arrived. And later on in this episode, I will show you the unpackaging of it, which I haven't yet done. So that'll be like future me later on in the episode, or maybe here. I ordered cashmere. I thought, I'm knitting a long time. I've knit with cotton, I've knit with merino, I've knit with alpaca, I've knit with all different sorts of fibers. I thought it was time that I experimented with cashmere. And since it is a little bit of an experiment, I'm not working off of an established pattern, it's something that I'm creating. I found the motif that I like from a vintage Norwegian sweater. I think it was a kid's sweater in a shop. I just saw a photograph of it. and I'm freely borrowing that motif to do an all-over Norwegian motif with a turtleneck and striped turtleneck, striped cuffs. And I thought, it's a winter sweater. I bought a very fine weight yarn, light fingering weight. I thought I would like to try and do something for a change with cashmere, so it'll be a very luxurious sweater. Now, Color Mart, which is the company that I bought this yarn from, even though they're in the UK, they deliver very quickly to New York. It's a week. Unless something goes wrong in customs or whatnot, it could be a couple extra days, but it's really not bad. The prices are so affordable because they're using the ends of runs from mills. So it's yarn that would be waste yarn, and they're able to repackage it to sell to the consumer at a deep discount. So I thought this is an opportune time. And if you've watched my podcast before, you'll know that I don't have stash. And I've done episodes on, why I don't do stash. Mainly space, but also I just don't want my cash tied up in stash. So I tend to buy as I go. And I knew that I was coming to the end of a couple of projects, and only at that point do I allow myself the luxury of going ahead and shopping for yarn. I was in a yarn shop with a friend of mine, and I'll try and remember to come back and tell you about my acquisition from the yarn shop the day that I went with her. But, I'm a little spoiled with Color Mart that I don't have to pay full retail price. I think cashmere in a yarn shop is about $40, $45 for a small ball. I paid $45 for 150 gram cone. Now I had to buy 2 cones because the sweater is 2 colors, so I know I'm going to have plenty of yarn, but I'm not worried about it because I want to make a matching hat. I want to make a ski hat with a pom-pom, and a pom-pom's going to use a lot of yarn. And if I have yarn left over after that, then I might make matching gloves with the stripe or something with the pattern. When I decided that I was going to be ordering this yarn, I asked some friends in my knitting group if they wanted to go in with me so that we could split the cost of the shipping. Shipping isn't bad in actuality. The shipping is a little higher because the company really, when it's shipping overseas, they want to do tracking. So, it's a little bit more for the tracking, but $8 I think is their minimum shipping, which isn't bad. I mean, in the US, I think you would pay that for shipping. But still, I thought if a few of us went in, we could split the cost of the shipping over a few of us. So 2 of my friends went in. They did not order cashmere. At least I don't think, well, I know one of them did not. I forget now what Cindy ordered. So I'm going to show you 2 unpackagings. One when the first shipment arrived, which sadly was not for me, but for my friend.
Yeah.
All right, so this is our yarn that we just ordered a mere week ago. I just love Color Mart because they're so rapido speedo. And we're doing the unpackaging. Let's see whose yarn it is. All 3 of us ordered. I think, Sabina, this must be yours because of the color.
Sabina.
Woo!
Wow.
That's very nice.
Oh,
Feels
really
good,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. DK weight, extra fine merino, maxi cash wool.
900 grams.
In buttermilk.
Oh, this is the one you pay for, and this is what you got
For
free.
Huh.
There's going to be more to come because there's another package that hasn't
Do I need
arrived
to
yet.
do them double?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm going to be knitting 2 strands.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
We did the first unboxing when the first package arrived, and now I'll do another one as soon as we are all together again. And then after I have that, I'll put it in here. We are back this week, a whole week we had to wait. The second package arrived. I know that everything in here is for me and for Cindy. Only my cashmere, everything else is hers.
Mine.
I have been so excited and so patient. I finished 2 projects so that I could clear my needles and not feel guilty about starting yet another project. So I have my needles ready. I have my pattern on here ready. As soon as we open this, I'm going to start
She's
swatching.
starting to knit. Okay.
I hope I like it. Okay, so, whoops, again, it's Color Mart from the UK. Do you remember what you ordered? You don't. I know that I ordered.
some colored wool.
I know I ordered hot pink wool, but I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was cashmere.
Is it?
I think I ordered cashmere.
I know, I ordered cashmere.
One was cashmere and the other one was something, maybe a cashmere blend.
On the package, they put something else, I guess,
Oh,
to
okay.
help it go through customs with ease. Don't tell Uncle Sam. Okay, whoa. Should I just dump it out?
Yeah, all right, go for it.
Oh, okay. We still have
Another thing to
cutting
open.
to do. Well, here's your pink.
My
Here's your
pink
red.
and my red.
I like my blue and white.
You do? Okay, good.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful colors.
I just can't believe how excited I am.
Okay, this is my pink. It doesn't say? Oh, it does say. Fingering weight cashmere. Something.
It's interesting.
It
with
was
the purple
yeah,
and the
it was not a solid.
right.
And then this one was the one that was on sale. This one is DK weight cashmere and cotton DK weight.
This is
It
really
still seems very thin for DK weight. Yeah.
This seems very thin for.
Yeah. This seems like fingering, not DK.
They call this.
And this is fingering.
Light
Yeah,
fingering.
light fingering.
No,
Look.
actually heavy lace weight
Oh,
cashmere.
heavy lace weight.
Heavy
See how
lace
much
weight.
mine is fine
Oh.
fingering, which is similar. No,
I
yours
might
is much
need
thinner.
the size 1 needle.
Yeah,
for
yours
this.
is much thinner. Okay.
Woo! Hope I
Here
have
we
enough.
are.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
If you ran out of yarn.
Yeah, I'd never get these exact colors.
I do have a plan for these. These I don't have a plan. Well, I said maybe a summer top, but this was going to be more of a.
Do they
because
look
it's
like
cotton.
they're the same color?
They don't look like they're the same color.
Probably a touch darker. The orange was a little brighter.
The texture looks different. Maybe when it's knit up, it looks the same. Maybe it's just wound differently.
Yeah,
This
these
is,
two
like,
look
tighter.
the same, and this looks a little different.
But this is a different
yeah,
winding.
Yeah, because it was a sale
D23,
thing.
D23, it seems like they'd be the same dye lot. Well, okay, to be continued. Yay.
We'll
Are
have to
you
show our
happy?
swatches. Yeah.
I'm
Exciting.
I can't wait to get started.
What do you make?
Thanks, Elaine,
Thanks,
my
Elaine.
favorite videographer.
You're welcome. Billie, you got this brand new yarn and you're kind of ambivalent about it. I would really want to know what you thought about it, what your plus sides were, what your negative sides were with regard to getting this new, rather lovely yarn. Would you mind?
When I opened up the yarn, I saw how very thin it was. I was expecting it to be a little thicker because they were calling it heavy lace weight, and I was already familiar with their lace weight from my Genie project, but it is super thin. I was expecting it to be a little lighter than a light fingering, but it's a lot lighter. So I had with me my size 1 needles, and I have my chart that I'm going to work off of, and I cast on, and I did a small swatch, which I've now ripped out because I could see that it just wasn't giving me the fabric that I liked. So I started to wind off into a little butterfly, some of each color, so that I can swatch with this yarn double on. I don't want to be on a size 1 needle. I've had that experience already. I'd like to be on a little larger needle and have a little thicker yarn. So this is now a work in progress. We'll see how I do, and I'll be back to you next time with my new and improved swatch, I hope. So that's acquisition number 1. Acquisition number 2, I forgot to tell you about last time. I know that I had told you I was in Florida at the home of my in-laws, and I brought back some things, but I did not tell you about this cranberry crystal dish that belonged to my mother-in-law. I'm trying to remember if I put it in my suitcase. I think this went in. The dishes I showed you were packed in my suitcase. This I put into my husband's suitcase, and I filled it with his socks, and I wrapped it up in his underwear, and it was very well padded, and we didn't check our bags, so this went on the plane with me, and of course it arrived without any problem, thank goodness. It's a lovely piece. I always admired it in her home, and since I have a collection of cut crystal from my great-grandmother, I thought this makes a nice addition to a collection that I already have. Okay, and there's one more thing. So I know some people rave about these, and since I was in Nitty City with my friend who was shopping for yarn, I decided, actually, I was willing to buy it, but she bought a set of 3 and gave me one as a gift. This is the same lovely woman who's given me brooches and the antique knitting needles that are up there, and a cute handbag. Anyway, I've heard people talk about these darning needles that have the curved end. The woman in the shop also said she swears by hers. So I thought, well, let me see what everybody's raving about. And I've used it. I used it to stitch up all the seams on this. There's the raglan seam, there's the seam down the sleeve, there's the seam down the side. There were a lot of seams on this, so this little needle got a good workout. And it gave me an opportunity to see how it works. I'm not so enthralled with it. Where's my usual needle? Oh, here it is. This is the darning needle that I usually use. It's vintage as far as I'm concerned, because I think that I didn't buy this. This came from my mother, who probably got it from her mother. You can see that it's, not only is it longer than this one and a little bit thicker, but it has a huge eye. Let me get rid of this so you can really see it. See the difference in the size of the eyes? I mean, it is a slightly longer needle, it's true, but the proportion of the eye to its total length, I think, is quite dramatic. So I still love this, but because this is smaller and thinner, I think it'll be better for fingering weight yarns. Now, so I don't lose it in my toolbox, I took a bright piece of yarn and threaded it through. Yeah, let's do that again. And I threaded it through here. And I'll keep this. I keep this loop through here so it's easy to find in my kit. My little toolbox with my scissors and stitch markers and T-pins and clamps. nail file. It's all right in here, little Altoids tin. Okay, so that is my acquisitions. I'm sure you get this too through Instagram or whatever social media you may use. You get articles fed to you. I also get some emails with like news alerts from different sources. And recently I was pushed an article that had about 50 different rules that the royals have to adhere to. Things about shaking hands, things about how they dress, things about etiquette, eating, drinking, a myriad of things. And one of the things spoke to the protocol of how they go about choosing timeless pieces of fashion over the latest trends, showcasing a preference for enduring value over fleeting fashion. And that kind of resonated with me. I do love vintage clothing. I certainly love vintage jewelry. I'm not wearing a lot of jewelry today because it's just too hot and sticky. But usually, you know, I have jewelry adorning me. So I thought that was really like lovely to hear, that they want things that will last. I think we should all be subscribing to that. If you can recycle and repurpose, rip out, reuse. I know it's a custom that's very much linked to World War II, especially in the UK, when they touted make, do, and mend, and fabrics and yarns and things were rationed. It's something to consider. I'd love to hear from you if it's something that you also strive to do in your own life. And while we're on the topic of royals, I wanted to give a shout out to my subscriber Colette, who often sends me interesting articles to read or podcasts to watch. She sent me a link recently to an article about a woman who, through her knitting, created pieces of art depicting different royal palaces. And there was a time that the late Queen Elizabeth came to visit an exhibition and saw one of her installations there and commented, "Oh, this was the garden planted by my mom." So I will leave a link in the show notes. You can go and watch that little snippet on BBC. Colette also sent me a link to a video about wool islands.
Welcome to the Faroe Islands, a small North Atlantic island community where sheep dot the landscape and far outnumber the people.
So it's about a 15-minute video on the Faroe Islands of Scotland. I think it's Scotland, where sheep are plentiful, outnumbering the people. And I think it's worth taking a look at. And then one last link, which I'll also put in the show notes. I believe this was sent to me by Colette as well, about one of the last knitters in Scotland with a full knowledge of the Sanquhar Gloves. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but those are the gloves that have the black and white designs all over them. It was a cottage industry, and this woman is out to preserve the myriad of different designs that were used in the 18th and 19th century. Evidently, there are 16 different patterns, and she's already written down 11 of them, at least at the time of the writing of this article. The article has beautiful illustrations, so I suggest that you go there and take a look. Well, that about does it for today. Thanks for being here. Always nice to see you. I love for you to share your comments. I love to read them. I respond to every single one of them. And I look forward to sharing more knitting with you in weeks and months to come. Take care, everybody. Bye.